How you doing, folks? My name's Jesse. Vlog entry number 15, February 28th. What have I been working on? Well, I've been working on continuing improving my blues playing. Like I said, I was pulling ideas from a lot of different places, and I landed on this idea that I thought was pretty cool. That was put out a couple weeks ago by Thurston Ford. I forget which is which. He's a real cool dude. You should check out his videos. Pittsburgh boy. Um, and he gave this idea that really helps me. He was talking about soloing, and when you solo, focusing on the thirds and maybe the sevenths as well. And he was jamming in G. And he said a lot of times people will go to the root of the four. He goes, but try focusing on going to the third of the four chord. So if you're playing a C7 or a C9, the third's going to be the E, right? So So I thought that was really cool because one of the things that I often struggle with when I'm jamming, especially when you're trying to make up something on the spot, because there's that moment of panic of what the fuck am I gonna do, and then you go, well, what do I know? And you go, for the longest time, and it's probably still too often today, I look down the E string or the A string and I look for the root. So I would hit for that C. You know. But going to the third kind of opens things up a little bit. And I discovered I'm only a half step away from the B, which is the third of the root of the one chord, you know. So and look at that. I'm on the third of the 5 chord, right into the 1. And on a 13, it's all good. So I've really kind of been working on that, and one of the things I thought I'd do is take what I learned from Guitar Tricks, the seminal Guitar Tricks video, or book, Guitar Tricks book that I talked about months ago. And I said, you know, all right, so I know my 7 chords. So let me focus on going C7, G7, C7, G7, C7, G7, C7, G7. That's a funny G7. Ron sure taught me that one out of the Mel Bay chord book. It reminds me of Todd Rundgren. Right? Love that, but it doesn't give that bluesy, that voicing doesn't always give a bluesy sound to it. So often the 7th is in the middle there. So I'm just going to focus on the D, G, and B strings, right? So I've got right? And then, all right, where can I find some licks in that, you know? So there's, I really like that lick because it's a blues cliche, and I still think, cliches are cliches because they have value, because people recognize them. But if you can tweak them just a little bit, that's pretty cool, you know? And then I'm on that 7 going up to the 3. So I go from the 3rd back down to the 7th. Now, here's this C7 voicing, and here's this G7 voicing, and I'm looking at that G string. There's this huge jump, right? So what if I, you know? So, obviously, I need to work on it some more, but I think there's a lot of good ideas to be found in that. Now, what have I been playing it with? Well, this guitar came into my life a year and a half, 2 years ago at this point. And to explain why I have it, I have to kind of go back a little bit. In the course of playing guitar for 40 some years, I've owned 3 Gibson L6S's. The Norland era, Bill Lawrence designed L6S. I bought one in 2005 off of a Harmony Central classified ad for $325. It was maple, all maple, but someone had refinished it in a pearl white and had done a decent job with it. They stained or dyed the maple fingerboard black like ebony. And I bought it because I really wanted a Les Paul, but I didn't have the money for a Les Paul. But I was like, well, it's a Gibson with humbuckers. And I think the humbuckers, the Bill Lawrence humbuckers, were called super humbuckers. So I was like, super must be big. And I got it, and I was disappointed because my mindset said this is going to sound like a Les Paul, and it definitely did not sound like a Les Paul. And one of the things that I really struggled with was the tone knob in the middle. It had a 3-knob layout, 1 master volume, 1 master tone, and then in the middle they had this thing that worked like a mid-cut. And I couldn't make sense out of it, didn't really understand it. When I had it turned one way, it sounded good, and I had it turned another way, it sounded bad to my ears at the time. So I sold it, and then fast forward 15, 17, 19 years. I think it was right when COVID was starting to calm down a little bit. And there was a really clean looking one at a really nice price at the Music Go Round in Cockeysville, Maryland. So I went down to check it out, and I played it, and I was just, it struck me. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go with this. And I played it for a while. I actually played it on a gig. It was a duo gig I did with a buddy of mine. And that gig, like, I approached it with older ears and with a more open mind. And I said, all right, this is not going to sound like a Les Paul. And at that point, I had a Les Paul, so it didn't matter to me. I'm like, what can this thing sound like? And I played around with it more, and I started to appreciate some of the nuances of the electronics, specifically the mid-cut. What I did was I would use it to kind of dial out some of the woolliness of the pickups. based on how it sounded. I said, all right, I'm going to go with the idea it doesn't have to be all off or all on. And so I tried an approach that I learned from a buddy of mine that he used his volume with. He would crank up the amp where if everything was on 10, it would just be kind of painful, right? It was loud. And then he rode the volume knob. So I did that, but I also rode the mid-cut knob. And I found that it was kind of useful. And so prices of Gibsons started jumping, and I said, at the time I wasn't using it. I was like, let me see if I can get a deal on it, selling it. I think I got what I paid for it because it's still an L6S and nobody likes them. So I didn't have one, but I got to thinking I started playing out more again, and I was like, man, I really want that mid-cut. And so I looked, and Bill and Becky Lawrence's company is still in business. They still make Bill Lawrence pickups. They're called Wild pickups. And they also make this thing called the Q filter. Now, I'm going to try and describe it. Understand this is an English teacher trying to describe sciencey stuff. So if I get it wrong, call me on it. Basically what it is, it's a small coil of wire that's kind of compact. There's either a resistor or a capacitor involved in the circuit, and you hook it up to a pot, or you can put it on and off switch. There's some options, but you can hook it up to a pot, and it will lower the impedance of your pickups and make them sound thinner. It kind of works like a mid-cut. So, and the funny thing is, like, this is the second time I shot this video. The first time I shot the video, I'm sitting here with the amp, and I can't really hear the difference. But on tape, I think you'll hear the difference. So let's... start rolling it back. All the way back. You can hear the high end is still there. And there's still a fair amount of low end. But the mids have dropped out. And I thought that was really clever. Apparently Bill Lawrence preferred that to coil cutting. And so I was looking for a guitar that I could do that with, and this was on sale on Facebook Marketplace for $200. Now it's a Squier, but it's a Mexican Squier, which I thought was pretty cool. And to top it off, it already had some pretty good mods done to it. The guy I bought it from said the guy who had it before him had been a player, had played in bands, and I believe that. It's kind of worn. It's got some chips in the lacquer in the neck. A couple of chips in the top coat around it. Still in pretty clean condition. It's got locking fender tuners on it, which are handy. And it's got gold tone humbuckers in it. And there was a 3-way switch. Gold tone was the brand of pickups that Stu Mack used to sell. And this is really the most Gibson-y sounding Strat I've ever played. And then you get the 2 position. And then pretty cool. Well, when I popped it open, I saw there were 4 conductor wires on the pickups, and I can't help it. I said, all right, I'm going to put coil taps in. So I thought I was getting push-pull knobs. Instead, I got push-push knobs. And I really like have a resistor or capacitor in there doing something. I forget what exactly. You know, and then the two position, my favorite two position on a two humbucker guitar is full humbucker in the neck and coil split in the bridge. You know, so you got like. So, and when you add the mid cut into it, you can do some really interesting things. So I'm gonna go single coil or coil split on both these, and I'm gonna roll the mid cut back. With the mid cut rolled back and the coils cut, you're talking under 4K on both pickups. I'm not going to say they sound like gold foil pickups, but I'm saying the output is comparable. At least comparable to like the Hershey Bar gold foil pickups. So there are a number of sounds available. Plus, I can't help it. If I've got a two humbucker guitar, I'm gonna put a phase switch in it. I use it about once every 3 years, but I don't care. I like that it's there. I like that it's an option that's available to me. Every once in a while, I'll kick the overdrive on just full blast and throw the phase switch and pretend I'm Brian May. Here's my red special. So that's kind of what I've been using this with. Now, it's funny because I haven't played this guitar in a while. And I said, you know, like I'm kind of moving and shaking stuff. I'm always restless when it comes to gear. I'm like, you know what? I want to document this so I can put it up for sale. And I pulled it out and started playing it, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't sell it. Maybe I'll regret it if I sell it. If I just play it better. So anyway, I hope you found this entertaining. I'll let you know how it goes, and I'll show you some new stuff that I got in some upcoming videos. My name's Jesse. I'll talk to you later.